it has all the shape and feel of a normal family drama until some very big things happen about a third of the way through the movie that turn it into something that's decidedly different than that. In many ways, depending on who I'm talking to, sometimes if I'm talking to another mom, I will say it's about a mom who is watching her daughter go through the exact same year in which she herself got pregnant and with said daughter. And so it's that kind of sliding doors moment of where Morgan's life became completely different from anything she predicted. And she's kind of watching her own daughter go through that exact moment, kind of hoping that she won't do the same thing, but without being able to express that because she does not regret having her daughter, which brings us to the title. The first time I read Colleen Hoover's book, I felt so struck by her skill at being able to put the reader in the shoes of either Clara or Morgan, whoever we are with at any given moment in the book. It's written so personally and with such incredible, unflinching honesty. It feels not like they are editing their thoughts for our consumption. They are just sharing their souls with us in the book. And I think that's something that's like a superpower of Colleen Hoover's, is being able to, she's a keen observer of humanity, and she is able to make the parts of us that are confusing and unflattering and kind of mysterious to us very clear and kind of relatable on the page. Immediately when you read this book and a lot of books by Colleen, you're picturing these, you start to feel like you know these people so intimately, and you picture these scenes and these houses and the car rides that so many things take place during, and the church and all of the landmarks and the people involved in the story. Her writing is just so intimate and descriptive that you have no choice but to put yourself in their shoes and build the world kind of three-dimensionally in your own mind. And so naturally, when you're reading it, you think, oh, this is an obvious adaptation. But then as part of the team of people who's responsible for bringing it to life, it's immediately intimidating, because with any book adaptation, you know that you are breathing life into something that exists so personally for people up to this point. They have their own Morgan in their mind's eye. They have their own Grant house. They have their own, Clara. All of these characters they've already cast either with like their own generated images or people they've dream cast for the movie. And so it is equal parts intimidating and also really exciting to try to hit a mark that I, as a book reader, would have wanted this movie's adaptation team to hit. But I think that the amount of story with the cadence of the amount of emotional internal character exploration made this a pretty obvious book that needed adaptation. McKenna is an extraordinary actress. Like, she really is special. First of all, she is so experienced. Like, I'm humbled by how much experience she has. She's seen it all, she's done it all, and yet she can access these parts of herself that are, I know, deeply uncomfortable to sit in. And in this movie, she's so often sitting in just total pain and sadness. And she does it with such professionalism and skill and also warmth. She brings so much life to Clara. And I think the Morgan and Clara relationship is pretty relatable from kind of any angle. I often, in the scenes that we're doing together, feel more aligned with Clara than Morgan. I feel like I'm new to being a mom, so I don't feel like I quite have the experience behind me that Morgan has. She's put in 16 and then 17 years of motherhood, and has spent the half of her life as a mom, and I'm very new at it, and so I sometimes feel like I have more resonance with whatever Clara is going through than Morgan. But I do think that scene to scene and character to character, people are going to find that they find kinship with one person or another. And there are a bunch of options for that through the movie that are not just Clara and Morgan. I think it's a movie that there are a lot of different characters to relate to. I feel so lucky to be working with Josh. Josh and I had a general meeting together maybe in 2012 for the first time. I met him about a movie that I don't think ended up happening. And we just hit it off, and then we were pen pals for a little while, and then as you do in the world, we just lost touch with each other. And then all of a sudden, back onto my radar, he comes with this project, wondering if I would come in and breathe life into Morgan, and it just felt like kismet. I love his work. I think he's super, super talented. And that is all before I actually had the experience of working with him, and it has been one of the great working experiences I've ever had with a filmmaker. He is so, the best idea wins. He is so, I don't know, his priorities are so clear that life is life and life is what matters. And this is an incredibly fun job that we all get to do, but he likes to keep those very clear. And he ends up with really good work. And it's just incredible to me. It sort of violates what a lot of people believe, I think. If you don't treat work as it's your life, you won't end up with a good product. But he's living proof of the opposite. He's such an economical storyteller in that he realizes that things can be told often more simply, more quickly, in fewer shots with fewer kind of gadgets and stuff, in a way that's more emotionally poignant, and it ends up feeling very organic as an actor. Like the scenes that we do as an ensemble where we're all moving around a kitchen together and it's shot on a steady camera and we don't do it a gazillion times, we don't cover it all perfectly, and it's a little bit messy and we're bumping into each other. That all feels like a real family in a kitchen trying to maneuver around and pass a baby around and do dishes, and it feels very real, and it's just been so much fun. I like could go on and on and on talking about how much I love Josh Boone. He's just the best. We're having the best time.
I think one of the things that was unique about Regretting You that made me want to come on board and develop it with Anna and Flavia is the fact that Colleen is able to tell relatable stories, but without stepping on tropes per se. And I think a lot of times her use of humor also helps tamper down the melodrama. So you kind of grab readers by the heartstrings a little bit, and they fall in love with the characters because of the humor. And then in the end, you've got your tissues out because you're happy for the characters and their final resolution. We had the advantage of casting these actors almost a year in advance of shooting. So Allison and Dave, who were already kind of knew each other, really communicated a lot. And then Mason and McKenna started hanging out basically nonstop once they were cast together. So by the time we started shooting, they were best friends. And Mason would come to set just to hang out with her, even when he wasn't working, on days he wasn't working. So, and then Willa Fitzgerald and Allison Williams both went to Yale. They're about 2 years apart. And Allison said, Willa's like my little sister. They have a great relationship. So it was a little like summer camp love fest by the time we all got to Atlanta. I think this movie is not just for mothers and daughters. It's one of those great things you could take your mom to or take your daughter to. You're not going to be embarrassed seeing something next to your mom like, oh gosh, where you turn beet red. But also, honestly, I believe that girls can bring their boyfriends and their husbands and they're going to love it because dads are going to love and relate to what it's like to have a daughter that's maybe being a little too wild or a little, doing a little bit too much of her own thing. You want to make a film that's relatable to as broad an audience as possible, but still have something meaningful and have some meat to it. And so I think that Regretting You delivers that. One great thing about Colleen Hoover books is that even though it's kind of these outrageous plot twists and events that hopefully don't happen in your own life, the characters are so relatable that I think it's something that most people will love to watch because there's always a hint of something that like, oh, that's me, that's a hint of me, or that's a little bit of something, that's how I would handle the situation.
When I was first reading the material, I was drawn to the character. I rarely play nice guys. It's very fun to play the villain and play these morally ambiguous characters, but I was like, you know what? I should probably play someone that hopefully audiences will root for once, and so that drew me to it. And then, when I read the script, I just loved, I loved that it was something different than I've ever done before. This is like a dramatic romance with, a little bit of levity throughout. If I were to describe this story to a friend in a succinct way, I would say this movie is about how decisions you make when you're a teenager can affect your whole life. And in a more specific way, this movie is about how a dark family secret tears a group of people apart, and we see how it brings certain people together and tears certain people apart. In regards to the tone, there's a lot of drama, there's a lot of romance. I remember McKenna saying the other day that she's either crying or kissing or doing both in every single scene in this movie, and that's not far from the truth. That said, I think Allison Williams is genuinely very funny, and she's finding ways to bring levity to pretty much every scene she's in, which is very important in a movie like this, where there is so much heavy stuff going on. It's nice to be able to laugh in moments too, and so yeah, it's got a little bit of everything. Allison and McKenna are amazing together. They're both just phenomenal in so many different ways. McKenna is just a well of emotion. I'm so impressed by her every single day. She can just conjure tears and intense emotions like that and then turn it off and just start joking with you off camera. She's unbelievable. And then them together, they just I don't know, they get along. They can find these moments in the scenes where they really know how to poke each other. Josh Boone, our director, is incredible. He is the most positive, optimistic director I've ever worked with. I've never seen him stressed. He shoots extremely fast in a way where I'm like a little nervous about moving on, but then I see the footage and I'm like, oh, you're just on it. You're just not wasting time. You got it. You know when you got it. Let's move on. And it makes our days short. Everyone's happy. They're going home to their families. But most importantly, he understands this genre. You know, he obviously made The Fault in Our Stars, and that movie, it just works. Like, if you don't cry in that movie, you're not human, and it's not an easy genre to pull off. And he just knows how to push and pull and tug the heartstrings, and he's just, I think, bringing just a lot of his own empathy and his kindness to this project. There's something about these types of films that are a comfort movie to a lot of people, where they watch them over and over and over, and I think it's because, you know, they're hitting the broad spectrum of emotion, and I think they're very easy to relate to, and it's easy to fall in love with these characters who are going through such heavy things and being so vulnerable, and so I hope this movie is like that and becomes one of the movies within this genre that people continue to watch forever.
Anna Todd, who is also a fellow producer, and we have been great friends with Colleen for a while and following her success and huge fans of her books. And when we read Regretting You, we realized this was not just a story of loss, but was also forgiveness and overcoming grief in many ways. I think that was when we talked to each other and like, this is it. We have to make this into a film. We were looking for a director that could create an environment that actors would feel comfortable to bring those emotions and feelings. And I cannot think of anyone better than Josh Boone for that. So in the end, we're very lucky that he said yes. Allison and McKenna, they were the first ones to be cast for this. I think finding the perfect mother and daughter that would have chemistry and would be able to bring Clara and Morgan to life was essential to us. So they were the first one that came to this, and we are extremely happy. I think their chemistry is undeniable, and Allison captured perfectly how controlled and Morgan is all the time. Morgan is a very difficult character to play. She's very contained. She's have all the feelings and emotion happen with her at the same time. She feels rage, she feels sadness, she feels love. It's everything. And I think Allison is the perfect actor to deliver this. Dave has this charm and he's vulnerable like Jonah is. So sometimes we're looking at Dave playing Jonah, and I'm like, who is who here? It's so perfect. to bring this character. He's also contained. He has there's a lot going on with Jonah, and I think Dave was able to capture this and bring this character to us. When people say it takes a village, it does take a village, and we are very happy to have a great one. We have an amazing team, and they are all, it feels that everyone wanted this to happen, and it was like magic seeing everyone working together. I feel like we're speaking the same language here at the same time, and I think we're going to be very sad when we're wrapping this, because it does feel like it's a family here. So sometimes when we're talking about the film, it's like a table dinner with your family on a Sunday, but we're talking about the film and building this project. So it's been amazing to work with the team we have. I hope the audience leaves the film feeling hope of a second chance, hope of love, hope of overcoming grief, hope of overcoming loss, and knowing that there is always a way to rebuild your life, and there is always a second chance. Even if you make mistakes in the past, that doesn't mean you have to regret them.
What captured me and drew me, it was certainly the coming of age story in it, and the relationship between Miller and Clara, and those sort of things I vibed with and felt like I could do them well, and liked obviously all the Dave and Allison stuff too, but I have a special place in my heart for coming of age movies and things like that, and grew up watching so many of those movies, and there's not much that comes out anymore in a theater for them. I always knew I wanted to work with Allison, and she had auditioned for my first movie, so I'd known her for many years and known Dave for a long time, and knew we wanted to put them in the movie together, and thought that they would have good chemistry, and thought that they were, and when you meet them, they're very similar in the way they approach acting. McKenna Grace plays Clara, and truly I do think she is one of the most brilliant actresses about to be one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood. I think she's that talented, and I think, dude, she's an incredible actress, and like she's so joyful and funny and brings so much light and energy to set every single day. I know people say this, but like I really mean this. Like her and Mason were like, you just could never have asked for two people to come play those parts for you and have to work with them every day. The same way as Dave and Allison, who are, again, very funny. Nobody takes themselves that seriously. None of us really take ourselves that seriously, which is why making a movie like this is a lot easier. Every scene in the movie, I'd say especially the Dave and Allison scenes, we reworked with them from the ground up. Pretty much any scene Dave and Allison were in a scene together in, we rewrote it for them. Mason and McKenna, younger, a little different, but they were always obviously bringing stuff to us or trying new things as well. And again, some of the funniest stuff in the movie and the best stuff in the movie is improvised. All the big laugh lines in the movie that get the big laughs in the theater aren't things that were written for the most part. They're just natural things that happen through everybody having fun. This is a movie for a mass audience, and it's like it needs to be hopeful, and it needs to give people a reason to feel positive when they leave the theater. And it's like all these things are in the book, but like they're not exploited in the way you'd exploit them in a movie. So I think you're always looking for that fine balance of like the real kind of humor and life stuff that would happen regardless of what was going on in your life that sucked, So life keeps going and things keep happening, and you're still gonna laugh about stuff. What I really thought was like, it's been a really long time since there's been a really good movie about a mom and a daughter. What if there was a movie that we could have moms and daughters go to the theater and see it together, and they'd watch it in 10 years and they'd show their daughters on a couch one day or something, There's just not that many movies made for people today in the way that there used to be. So it's like, if we can make a great one for women and for mothers and daughters to go see together, that's more than most anybody else is putting out in the movie theaters this year. Colleen Hoover tells stories about, again, she makes pretty real and compelling feeling characters in situations that most people aren't dealing with on a daily basis, but they give you the dramatic spur that you need to deal with all these character relationships and personal relationships between family members. I hope they'll go hug their mom or hug their daughter or want to see their family or think a little bit differently about small potatoes problems that their families might have compared to this. It's dealing with people who've had something traumatic happen, and people seem to enjoy reading about that or watching it.
I've always wanted to do a movie like this, especially getting to do it with McKenna has been a lot of fun, but just the character of Miller, there's a lot in him that I see in myself, and getting to play a character like that has always been a dream of mine. It just feels so real, especially with these characters, and the way it's written, it feels like real people, and getting to do a lot of these scenes, which a lot of people go through, it just resonated with me so much, and getting to play these characters and not having to read horrible, like disaster-written scenes. It's really easy and fun as an actor. Gramps is played by Clancy. Clancy is the coolest person ever. He reminds me a lot of my grandpa. He's really cool, down to earth, and he cracks the funniest jokes in the best places possible. His comedic timing is unmatched. Getting to do scenes with him has been so much fun, and Miller didn't grow up without parents. His mom died, dad in prison, so all he had was Gramps. So they have a very close relationship, and reading it translates very, very natural. So it was fun to do those. My first day was with Clancy. It was Clancy and McKenna, and McKenna was trying so hard not to break. And she's a damn professional. She does not break, and Clancy had her. She had her, and I remember I looked over at McKenna when I was supposed to give a line to her, and she was fully turned away, trying not to laugh, and that was amazing. But yeah, and I also got Clancy on his final day on the set to say "money, money, money" in his Mr. Krabs voice. Made my whole life. That's all I needed. My life is complete. I'm set. Josh Boone has been so incredible. He's one of my favorite directors I've ever worked with. He's so funny and so down to earth and really personable, and especially with scenes in a movie like this, he's great with talking you through stuff, and me and him had a lot of time to talk about the character and see where we want Miller to start and where we want him to end, and it's been such a fun process, and he really gives us a lot of freedom, which is great. The incredible actors and actresses in this, like the way they can bring that comedic timing and the fun to scene, and then just immediately switch to sadness. It's so fun to watch, especially as an actor. Getting to watch that is so great. But yeah, no, it's such a great contrast, and the tone is so well written, and I give it all to Josh Boone, and he's done such an incredible job, especially talking us through stuff. I got a call, and I met with Josh Boone, our director, and he was the nicest person ever, and I could tell how much he really wanted to do this, and he really had a vision, and he explained it to me, and I read the script, and I knew McKenna was attached, and it was just a no-brainer. And then I found out afterwards it was a book by Colleen Hoover, and I read the book, and I was just, there's no way I could say no.
Regretting You to me is about a mother and a daughter kind of rebuilding their lives after dealing with this huge loss and revelation about their family, and kind of having to go through that and rebuild their relationship together. But also there are also little romantic bits too, so they're rebuilding their relationship and also finding new ones. This is a really different role for me. I've never done a romance, so that's very new to me. But there's truly no one else I'd feel more comfortable or rather be doing this with than Mason. He's one of my best friends ever. But yeah, it's totally different. It's also just nice because, I feel like there's a consensus. I was a little kid for 90% of my career because I was a little kid for a while. So I was young for a lot of my career, and playing young, but it's cool to be finally aging into playing a teenager. So it's so cool to me to be playing my age and to be able to do that. But yeah, no, it's fun because it's not even like that mature of a role, but it's a more mature role for me, and it's fun to be able to do a romance because that's something I've never done before. When I read the book, I don't really connected with Clara. I feel like she's pretty close to myself. I mean, everybody's been a teenager, so it's like they know what it's like to have tiffs and quarrels with your parents. So it's like I totally related to her and her mom's storyline of, kind of coming back together. Well, it's great working with Allison. I love working with Allison. She's the best and encapsulates Morgan so well. But yeah, it's a mom and a daughter butting heads with
5 million crazy other things that are influencing every decision they make. So it's just like there's so much going on for both of these characters, and throughout the film I think that they really learn to communicate, which is very important. There's a lot of miscommunication throughout this. Josh is probably one of the most fun directors I've ever worked with. He really has created such a fun and safe environment to play around as actors and to create in. But he himself is also just so funny. He's so much more funny than I anticipated. He's just hilarious on set all the time. I'm obsessed with him. But no, I love Josh, and he works really efficiently too. These set days are so short. We really just get through the scenes so quick, couple of takes tops. The whole movie is about grief and regret and choices that we should or should not have made. I think that all of these characters are just trying to figure themselves out, and I think that everybody's just trying to do what they think is right in this movie and just trying to live as they see fit.
I am Sam Morelos, and I play Lexie. Lexie is Clara's best friend. She's her ride or die, and honestly, just a fun, light presence, honestly. Because there's a lot of tension in this movie, and Lexie's the knife that cuts it. It just seems, their relationship seems easy almost, and also just full of love and fun. I mean, Lexie and Clara, in my head, in the reality that I've created, that is not on either the script or the book page, is that we've known each other since we were in second grade and have been inseparable since. But at the end of the day, Lexie's very much a friend that you want to keep around. She will stick by you no matter what. She's gonna speak up for you if you don't want to, and she'll advocate for you. It's just a lovely, easy, grounded, just warm dynamic. McKenna is so talented, it's ridiculous, and also off-screen so fun and just lovely, and is willing to riff your bit when you make a joke. I feel funny when I'm around this girl. And honestly, that is so important when you have friends, is to laugh at each other's jokes. But there's also an aspect of, there's an ability to be comfortably silent with each other too, and I really adore that dynamic. And McKenna's just a lovely, lovely person to be around, and I know anyone and everyone can attest to it. I want them to really feel connected to the story. I want them to be on the edge of their seat wondering what's happening next. Especially, I know that for me, in love stories, I'm oh my God, are they gonna get together or not? Oh my God, I hope that they stay together. Oh, blah, 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 blah. Things like that. I get really invested in love stories. And I want them to invest in the love stories, but also this mother-daughter coming of age for both of them, you know? Yeah. And I also want them to hug their people and cry and laugh sometimes.
This film in particular has got a lot of heart. You know when you see a romantic movie where the other characters are supposed to be with the other people? It's an examination of what that would have been at first young love, and then fast forward 20 years almost. So it's they're almost getting a second chance at it, which I think is cool. Willa Fitzgerald, she's great. I worked with her on a film a couple years ago. So we already had a great working relationship where we had to play lovers in a different movie. So it was oh, this is gonna be easy, when I showed up, we already know each other. Allison's been great. McKenna is you can tell she's going places. She's really, really a young, talented actress. And it's been really fun to play her father. Yeah, we've just been having a lot of fun. Dave's always able to analyze a scene and go, well, that's like more interesting. Why don't we do that? And you're like, oh, I never would have thought of that. So that's fun. I would define regret as like that moment where you like back in high school where you see a girl and you catch her eye and you don't go up and ask her for her number. And you're like, and you just miss that moment, you know? It's just like a moment in time and it's like, oh, but you learn from those moments, you know? You can learn from them. You're like, I'm not gonna do that again. I think it'd be highly entertaining. It's an examination of, like I said, a lot of like gray area in life. And I think there'll be people in the theater that'll probably be looking over at their significant other going, am I supposed to be with you? They might question everything, which, it's good to question things.
I mean, I think that all romance novels, stories, movies function on some level of like wish fulfillment. I think that everybody really wants to have like um, a literary love story, and I think that that's kind of what everyone's chasing, for better, for worse. I don't know if it's always a good thing, but I think that I think especially that idea of like a missed connection of like the what if, the sliding doors of it all. The like, what if I had made that choice when I was that age instead of this choice? Where would I be now, and what would that look like, and what would that feel like? And to get to have another chance of doing that, I think is really seductive and compelling. And I think that these kind of stories like certainly understand that about human nature and our kind of like desire to know what the other option would have been. Something that I'm always interested in when I'm reading something is everything that's kind of like happening not on the page, everything that's kind of like not said. And I think for Jenny, obviously, we have a ton of stuff that we only ever kind of get to put together after the fact. And I think that that's always like a fun acting assignment for me personally. And I think I'm always interested too in like why people make bad choices. I think that's something that I often explore in the characters that I play. I don't think I've ever played a character who was like doing great. McKenna's great. We actually had the same stylist, so I knew of her long before ever meeting her. Yeah, I mean, I think that I think that especially in the pieces that we see in this movie with them together, um, I think there's a real desire on Jenny's part to not have Clara make similar mistakes. I think that there's a real awareness of the weight of the choices that Jenny's made and the ways in which they're affecting her life and everyone else's lives. And I think it's always interesting as I get older and as I have younger friends and friends' babies and children to just kind of like to understand and like see the things that like really activate you into like trying to make that person not make that choice, like that's it's always interesting to see like what those triggers are, and I think that we certainly see that for Clara and Jenny. Josh is great. I mean, he's been so excited for us to kind of just like find a bunch of moments that are on the page. Like I think that he has been very open to us kind of taking the script and running with it, which is always fun, and to like really making it feel like these people have known each other forever and have existed in these spaces forever, and there's always something fun in the like kinetic energy of those kind of scenes where you're allowed to just be like talking over each other and talking past each other and like just finding what feels really natural in those moments. That's not always the task, but I do think that like naturalism is like it definitely seems like something that Josh is really interested in, and that's a fun thing to find on set with everyone. It's certainly going to be a movie that people cry in. I think it's certainly going to be a movie in which people feel complicated emotions towards, Chris and Jenny. I think that there'll be some complicated feelings about Claire's love for those two characters. Hopefully there's some like real funny stuff in it too. I think there's some like really funny funny scenes and character moments, and I think it's got a lot of things that will appeal to a lot of different people for different reasons.